So you just finished crocheting something and now you want to know, how many yards of yarn did I actually use? Or maybe you have a partial skein and you want to know, how much do you have left? There's lots of reasons why you might need to know yardage. You might be wanting to make something and want to make sure a partial skein that you have available is enough for that project. Maybe you're testing for somebody and the designer has asked, how many yards of yarn did you use to make your finished project? Maybe you're designing something and you want to know how many yards to put into your pattern to let people know what they'll need to buy. Maybe you're going to start selling finished pieces, and in order to calculate what you'll charge for those pieces, you want to know how many yards of yarn you used for your materials. So whether you want to know what you used in a finished project or what you have left in a skein, I have an equation that will work for both. All you'll need is a simple kitchen scale, your label, or as I've often done when I don't have the label, to jump online and find the information on the website from the manufacturer of the yarn you used, and a calculator. And if you have a larger project, you might also want a bowl that it would fit into that you can put on the scale instead, because you need to have the entire project on the scale. It can't be hanging off or anything. The information that you will need to do this is the weight of your finished project and the yardage and weight of one full skein of the yarn you used. The first number I need to figure out how many yards I use is I need to get the weight of my finished project. So I have these leg warmers that I just finished up. I'm going to place them on the scale, and we want to make sure they're entirely on the scale, nothing's hanging off, and all of the weight is on the scale. And they weigh exactly 4 ounces. And then the next number I am going to need is the number of yards in one full skein. So this skein came with 888 yards. So I'm going to multiply 4 ounces by 888 yards to get my first number, which is 3,552. So now we will take the total from that and divide it by the ounces of a full skein of yarn, which is 9.9 ounces. So I will divide by 9.9 ounces, which means I used 358.7878, which will just round up 359 yards to make my leg warmers. You can also do this with the grams information if you want. It's the same exact process. You just use that number. Just make sure whatever you use to weigh is the one that you use from your jacket, from your yarn jacket. And now we can also do the same thing to figure out what's in a skein. Now for this situation, because I have the finished project and I know how many yards I use and I have the skein with the information on it, I could just subtract what I used here from here and I would know, right? But in some situations, we don't actually have the finished project. This is just a skein that's in our collection, right? And now we want to know what's in it because we have a project we want to make. So it's going to be the same process, only this time we will weigh the skein. And we have 6.2 ounces. So we will take 6.2 and we will multiply it by the number of yards in a full skein, which is 888 for this. And then we will divide by the ounces of a full skein. So divided by 9.9 means we have 556 yards left in our skein to work with. Thanks for hanging out with me and learning how to calculate the amount of yards of yarn you used in your project or in your partial skeins. I hope this was a helpful tip. I know that this is a method that I use quite often, whether I'm designing or testing or trying to decide how much to sell something for. Are there any other skills that have to do with your fiber art that you would like to know? Drop those questions into the comments and I'd love to make a video about it. And make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any of these other tips and tricks I put out in the future. And if you're like me, and sometimes you need a little visual reminder of how to do some of this stuff, you can grab the printable version of this graphic right here by signing up for my email list. Find the link for that in the description below.